Welcome to the Finance Village podcast, where we navigate the dynamic relationship between financial professionals, their industry, and the clients they serve in an ever-changing landscape. Let's begin. Hi again, everyone. Sheldon Bro here, your host for Finance Village. I'm here with my co-host, Seun Adeyemi. And here today, we are going to be talking about behavioral finance, understanding client behavior and improving financial decision-making. Behavioral finance, let's quickly clarify, because again, we're not the fancy pants podcast where we're going to talk about the intricacies of the hedge fund and this and that and whatever. We're for the streets, we're for the people, both on the professional and the consumer side. What does behavioral finance mean to us, Sean? For me, the simplest terms is just it's cash flow. Live the life the way you want within your means, and it ultimately comes back to that. It's being related to cash flow for me.
Well, I think it is the behaviors that affect how we spend, how we look at money, how we interpret the world when it comes to our resources, right? It's the habits that we have in terms of what causes you to spend. How do you even spend? Do you have a budget? Are you the kind of person that likes to, well, let me pay for it. Let me put on my credit card and figure out how to pay for it. It's the behavior that influences how we spend money. That's how I look at behavioral finance. It's this idea is in the last few years, a lot has changed when it comes to finance. Just look at the last 4 years with COVID and the saving rate versus spending rates. Enough statistics show that during COVID, a lot of people stopped spending and started hoarding, which was great. I saw that and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. More people are saving. But I think that was an influence of people not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing where this was going to lead. And so you have people saving aggressively. That's one piece of it. But the other piece of it that is not often talked about is the amount of money that was poured into the economy for people through subsidies, through grants, both on the U.S. and the Canadian side. And so I don't think that savings rate would have held up or would have been possible if there wasn't all that free money being pumped into the economy.
You know, consumers have certainly continued to spend. The savings that they have had, unfortunately, has been greatly depleted by all of the inflation and everything. And we'll get into the inflation as kind of the next quick subtopic, but what are the variables that are affecting behavioral finance? So the behavioral that you experienced in the household you grew up in, I'd say one of the main places we get the financial behaviors from our parents, for example. Some people are blessed with a more natural disposition of being the more disciplined or the less, the better steward, or there's a long list of kind of the psychology that comes from your household. What other variables do we have going into that form?
It's education. It's what you know. It's what you know affects how you live your life. I mean,
even education comes in variables, right?
Yeah. I mean, education can only go so far because you have people who have all the education but are still really, really bad with money. So education does help to a degree, right? In terms of how money works, finance, credit cards, debts, rule of 72. So rule of 72 is basically how long it takes for your money to double based on the interest you're being charged or the interest you're making. So on your credit card where you're paying 18%, if you take that 18% and you divide that by 72, that gives you 4. That means your credit card debt will double. If you had $1,000 in credit card debt and you just kept paying minimum payments, in 4 years, that 18% interest rate will become, that $1,000 will become $2,000. On the flip side of it, if it is a savings, if you're getting 4% in your savings account, 4 divided by 72 is 18. That means it's going to take you 18 years for your $1,000 to double. So you can see how that works against you. When you owe money, your debt grows faster. When you're saving money and you're not getting a good return, it takes forever for your savings to increase or to double in value. So that's basically the premise. So you take that interest rate, whether that's savings, whether that's debt, divided by 72, it'll tell you how long it takes for your savings or your debt to double.
Impactful to even think about, even if you're not going to sit there and break down the math. Psychology of people when the pressure's on is different. Earlier during COVID, where there was a substantial increase in savings, unfortunately, all the stuff that happens afterwards with the inflation and everything and the cost of living depleted a lot of that savings. We want to do something very intentional with our money. We want to be able to have the knowledge and the discipline. You might get the knowledge from your parents. You might get it from your friends. I think that there's probably a lot of people that focus too much sometimes on budgeting rather than to try to find a way to bring in more income. Because if you're not doing something with inflation, either doing something with your money so that it's not, if it's sitting in your checking account at zero, what's happening? It's going down, is it not?
Inflation in simple terms is that your money loses value over time. So your $100 grocery, same grocery in a year from now will probably cost you 110 or 120. As time goes on, your money loses value. And so what we're inherently saying is this: because of inflation, something's got to be happening with your money, right? On when we talk about cash flow, there are two sides of it, and the side most people often focus on is, okay, I gotta curtail my spending, which is great. I think got to keep within your means and all of that. But I think the flip side that you were referring to, Sheldon, is how can I increase my income? How can I create passive income streams? How can I build assets that can give me passive income, right? Is how can I take what I have and make sure that I'm not just keeping it in a bank account earning 0.50% or 0.05% rather. Can I put it in a high interest savings account? That word is an anomaly because high interest savings account in Canada today, maybe you get like 2%. So I beg to differ what high really means. But the idea is your money needs to be working for you. Otherwise, you're losing money.
If you made 50,000 this year and you didn't get a raise, you're making like 48,000 the next year or 49,000 the next year, whatever inflation has impacted you on that percentage, whether it's, even if it's 49,500. I mean, nobody wants to go backwards, and it's hard. I know everybody says we're busy, we're all busy, and we're trying to find time to have with our families and our kids and have that work-life balance. Me and my wife have now at this point changed every second date night, half of every second date night, into we're just like trying to think about ways that without overwhelming ourselves, we can continue to figure out ways to invest in ourselves for the next kind of promotion of salary or raise that you would get in what you're bringing in. Think about the additional ways you can bring in income. We've had plenty of conversations about being keen little budgeters, but we really like to focus now on what are we going to be able to bring in. We're living in a world with all these different things available through technology where you can really use tech. I'm not just talking about AI. There is a great opportunity for people right now that want to show a tiny portion of ambition of any idea that you have. You can really go out and do it special, especially where people are moving away from customer service. And customer service is now going to FAQ and I can never talk to a person. You talk to a person, I think you'll make great money these days.
Before we even go down that rabbit hole, I wanted to touch on inflation for a second again. When it comes to inflation, I said, don't believe what you hear. And what I mean by that is the Bank of Canada, the Fed, they may tell you inflation is 4%, inflation has come down. It's a hogwash. What they do is they have this basket of goods and services, which they use to decide, okay, based on these goods and services, this is how much the cost of your things have gone up. But what they do is they take and remove things from that basket of services to help them paint the picture they want to paint.
So what would you suggest to somebody to understand it? Is it just always assume that it's sticking it to you? Because that's
exactly
what I would want to implant in my family is just assume it's higher than what they say it is and it's beaten on you in the same way that
that's exactly my point.
I don't know. You have to assume every time that you go to a meeting, you have to assume there's going to be bad traffic and you're going to be late and have a buffer.
Exactly. That's my point. So inflation is much higher than what they're telling you because they're taking out different goods and services to help you determine inflation because they want to, there's a certain narrative, there's a certain number they want. So always assume inflation is higher because I feel it. When I go to the grocery store, you tell me, well, inflation was only 2%. I don't believe it because the same gallon of water that I bought for $2 last week is now $2.50. That's not 2%. It's not. That's closer to 25%.
Well, and I guess that kind of comes down to one of the things we wanted to quite quickly touch on is that confirmation of bias to believe in what we want to believe and not just believing things that we already believe that are ingrained. Mm-hmm. There's so many different kind of, and again, it comes down to an it depends. Right? So in regards to behavioral finance, big piece of it does come back to the cash flow. Let's quickly touch on just the idea of cash flow and budgeting. I think that there are keener people that exist, but most people shouldn't try to do that. You want to simplify and diversify when it comes to those type of things, in my opinion. For me, simplifying is just have your core payments and then have your discretionary. Stop trying to put in, you're going to spend exactly this much on groceries every month and this on that, whatever. Have discretionary. And your discretionary is just one big number. And if you mess that up, well.
Strict budgeting, like dollar for dollar, everything, it's kind of hard to do, let's face it. But if you have your fixed payments, you have your income, you have your discretionary income expenses. The key then is finding out, okay, well, I have, for the discretionary expenses like groceries, like gasoline, like you name it, right? Is just have a round number for that and say, okay, this is how much I have for each paycheck. I have $700, I have $1,000 for this. And you just kind of watch that ticker go. As you spend on gas, as you spend on goals, you have to have that basket of discretionary expenses kind of nailed down. This is around what we spend money on for these things.
So wait now. So okay, well, we might be talking about a slightly different approach. Are you suggesting that gas is discretionary or a mandatory regular?
It's a mandatory regular, but the amount we spend on it is
Because
different.
I don't know that you. Well, I guess that's actually debatable because you kind of. I mean, there's your work gas is mandatory, but you're driving around the city on a nice sunny day 3 days a week because you want to get out of the house is more discretionary. So it's pretty complicated. Behavioral finance and cash flow related things get complicated to categorize because you can go to Costco or Walmart. No technology in this world until we have a SKU that's attached electronically to everything that somehow feeds into this magical place into one app. You don't know what really the categories are. And good luck sitting down and going through every line item on your receipts to really get that true, accurate picture. Nobody has an accurate
I don't think you need to have that. I just think you need to have, this is my budget for all of these things, whether you want to name it discretionary, whether you want to name it eating out. It's just I have my fixed expenses and I have these expenses that are variable. And for these expenses that are variable, this is the number that I can afford to spend on it based on my budget, and make sure you keep within that number. So whether that's your variable expenses like heat, hydro, which change every month, or like gas, or like eating out, they're all variable. Not all is discretionary, but because they fluctuate, you can't put a dollar figure to it on your budget item to put in there. So it's better to have a round number, say, I have $1,000 to spend on all of these things, and I just kind of keep an eye on that just to make sure I don't go over that. That's as simple as I think you can really track a budget.
How can financial advisors incorporate behavioral finance principles into their practices? So for me, and I'm not a financial advisor, many people will call me as their trusted financial quarterback to find their financial advisor, their investment person, their insurance person. I would suggest to everybody, be embarrassingly transparent. But I really admire people that can be open about their lives in the right situations. It doesn't mean you're going out and popping out on Facebook that you get $60,000 in credit card debt. But if you're consulting with a financial advisor that you've found that you've tried to see, is this a good fit, and I have a level of trust for this person at a comfort level after a few meetings, be embarrassingly transparent. It shows unbelievable character, and it will yield tremendous results if you are mildly interested in growth, and not just financial growth, but character growth of being able to be embarrassingly not just open with your advisor, but with your spouse. Because sometimes people want to do some top secret stuff and just kind of keep that separate, and they're trying to put their advisor in an awkward position. How can advisors incorporate behavioral finance principles into their practice?
I think the biggest key is advisors asking the tough questions and being okay with asking uncomfortable questions. Because if as an advisor, if you're really going to help a client, you're going to have to ask questions that may make them squirm. But if you don't dig into their behavior, the reasons why, how they spend money, the reasons why they spend money, the things that are important to them, it's really hard to help them. And I think a key piece also is for advisors to, when you come across situations where, see, there's a distinction between financial advisors and financial coaches, right? And there's a big distinction in that, because financial advisors, we're very good with, okay, these are your goals, these are the things you want to do, here are the steps, and here's the outline of how we're going to help you get those things done. But sometimes you get into a meeting, you're having this conversation with your client, or the part of discovery, you're asking all these questions, and you quickly identify that this client has money spending habits, this client has money issues, this client has mindset issues that are affecting the way they see money and the way they spend money. And it's okay to raise up your hands and say, I think what the client needs is way beyond what I can do for them. And funny, I was listening to a podcast over the weekend, and this advisor was talking about how she prepares her clients to be able to meet with financial planners and advisors. So meaning that she's helping them get the habits, the spending, understand their money behaviors, their money triggers, helping them understand that, unpack all of that, coaching them, so that by the time they get to an advisor or planner's office, the planner then puts the strategies in place, puts the tax planning in place, puts all the different things in place from a retirement, investing, or goals, and all of that in place, because all the back work has been done already. And so I think advisors also need to get to a place where they recognize this is an important part of the whole financial planning process. And if it's something you love to do, then possibly look into getting more financial coaching training to be able to help clients along that journey. And if it's not something that's your bread and butter, that's fine. Find advisors who do the coaching side of it, because the better the client's mindset is and habits are transformed, the better as an advisor or as a planner you're able to help those clients.
Yeah, so advisors don't just not do it. And I know I've literally
Yeah.
sat on with one of my buddies that's an advisor, and he's like, I just did this. I created this financial 101 course and the cash flow. But he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't, because, a financial advisor / planner is able to offer you a more sophisticated, or, there are different levels of sophistication. I
right.
even want to say that, get the hater from all the money coaches, which we need a lot more of. I would say that the money coaches are probably some of the most important. Because even people making 250,000, there's a stat on that in the U.S. or whatever. The average person making that still living up to 250,000 is still living paycheck to paycheck. So that behavioral finance cash flow is king and everything.
Absolutely.
And it really comes back to that 72, because it's 72. It's a massive impact every little dollar you spend or every little dollar that you save.
Absolutely.
It's a massive impact. And I say, don't. Now, and everybody has to be squirrels. Live the life you want. If you want to spend $1,000 on Star Wars stuff, spend $1,000 on Star Wars stuff. But make sure your rent is paid. Make sure you get some savings. Make sure you got some food. So in regards to the athletes and even celebrities, and I'll touch on the celebrities separately because the examples I've seen for that is a little different, but there's a huge number, a huge percentage. Antonio Brown just recently filed for bankruptcy despite reporting $80 million in his NFL career earnings. He would have at his disposal both a financial advisor and those types of financial coaches that are going to coach you on the day-to-day. So even having all of the resources in the world, both in the advice at your fingertips, which you're not necessarily utilizing, or the earnings, can still end in a total disaster and of the, I guess, biggest kind is bankruptcy. And I'll even throw out there, Sean, celebrities. I've heard a number of them. I'm not going to try to name them. I have some names that I think, but I'm not sure. But you can Google just celebrities that died without a will, and it creates a total gong show within their family, within their estate, within the cost that it takes, the depletion of the money. So even people with the most resources, both in advice that are not taking advantage of it, anybody can take advantage of advice, though.
And the whole idea really is this. Look at Antonio Brown. He made $80 million in his NFL career, and he's declaring bankruptcy. Like, if that can happen to him, that can happen to any of us. Now, I know some people use bankruptcy as a means to try and skirt certain responsibilities, but the reality is this. He had access to information. He had access to knowledge. We had access to a bunch of things that he should not be in that situation. But what led him to that situation? Probably bad advice, probably behavioral finance. It's a big part of it. It plays into every aspect of our lives. And so I think it's paramount for you, for your family, and for your loved ones to make sure you have a pulse on what's going on and plan for your future and have the right people around you to help you make smart decisions.
Everybody, go listen to the right places. Don't just listen to randos on LinkedIn. Look at what the advice these people are actually giving, and then ask other people that you know that are actually financially qualified, what do you feel about this person's advice, and continue to engage that as you would in a dating relationship or anything else. We appreciate you, and we're going to leave you with a quick ad for Pocket Finance. 92% of people trust referrals from people they know. But there's a better way to make those introductions. Wrap your arms around your client with your professional team. Join your client's team free today. PocketFinance.com.